welcome to the show, Kalvin Alvarez, the industry principal for Updater.
Thank you, Sydney. Super happy to be here.
Fun fact, we actually work together. We both work at Updater. So
We did.
yes, I'm going to be asking you about Updater, which I know a lot of the answers, but not everybody knows the answers to these questions. So thank you for joining me.
Exactly. Happy to be here.
So Kalvin, you haven't been at Updater for that long. It's been a month?
Yeah, a little over 30 days.
So I'm going to test your knowledge of how much you know about the company.
Okay.
I hope your onboarding went well.
It did. We'll find out, I guess. Yeah, we'll really find out here.
You've been in the industry for a long time, so I'm sure you've heard and seen what's going on. How long have you been in the industry?
Just talking about this, a little over 12 years now.
Wow,
it's kind of crazy.
You got me beat.
Yeah.
Did you start as a leasing agent?
I did. Yep. Started
Same.
at the bottom. Now we're here. Absolutely.
It is incredible. I mean, would you just fall into it as a leasing agent?
Really did. Yeah. I was working in retail, and one of my friends happened to be a property manager, and she said, I think you'd be really great at leasing. And at that point, I was kind of reached my peak at the retail space and decided to give it a try. And next thing you know, here we are.
Next thing you know, you have this incredible career in tech, and
it's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
absolutely
it's cool.
insane.
And now you're helping shape products for the industry. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's something that's really, whether it's the CRM space or the move-in space, like something I'm obviously like super, invested in, just having spent, close to 7 years on site. And
you were on site for 7 years?
Close to
Wow.
it, 6.5. Yeah,
Wow.
So all on site. So leasing agent up to property manager, and just living that life and understanding, thinking, talking to my colleagues, some of which are now, on the vendor side as well, like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this, or wouldn't it be great if we had that? And, it was clear to me when I entered the vendor side that, not a lot of, individuals had that on-site experience or had been in the trenches or, experienced a move in and what that's like. And, really like the precipice of this whole sales process. And this is someone's home and it has to be special and we want to make it great. So, yeah, it's been a super fun ride and just super blessed to be in multifamily. I probably will never do anything for the rest of my life.
No, we're never leaving.
No, we can't leave.
It's so fun.
Once you're in here, you're never going to leave.
We'd have to make new friends.
New friends, learn a different space.
No, definitely not.
Sounds terrible.
There's plenty of jobs in this industry to stay forever.
Exactly.
So, Kalvin, tell me a little bit about, obviously I know what Updater is because we both work there.
Yeah.
But for anyone that maybe who has never heard of it, give me the brief rundown. What is Updater?
Yeah, just like 30-second, 15-second pitch. Like we're really trying to take the burden of moving, which everyone knows is extremely stressful.
The third most stressful life event after death and divorce.
Exactly, that's terrifying, honestly, if we're being real here. Like that's scary, taking that burden off of the resident, but it's equally as stressful for the people on site. And I think anyone in this industry knows that, but I think it's been overshadowed like over the course of time. And so really our goal is to automate as much of that process as we can, make it easy for the resident, but also hyper-focused on gathering those important documents that are needed for that move-in process, all that, kind of boring operational stuff that has to be submitted to the PMS, really taking that out of the on-site team's hands so they can focus on, more of the experience piece and kind of that feeling that AI or automation can't control. So really we're just trying to make any resident who uses Updater, any PMC who uses Updater, like the best moving experience possible.
I've had a lot of conversations with different companies today, AI, automation, that's pretty much what everyone's talking about. And this common theme of taking away the busy work that leasing agents don't need to be doing so they can focus on what they're good at. I mean, what made you so good at leasing? Was it because your personality and you're great at sales, right?
Really?
Not because you're behind the computer.
No, yeah. It was all about the sales piece, right?
Yeah.
And I think like, when it comes to investment in prop tech, like a lot of it has been focused on the sale. And really what we're talking about with the sale is like customer acquisition and getting them to apply. But there hasn't been a ton of focus when it comes to, okay, once they've applied, how are we getting them actually to the finish line, which is the move-in, right? Which is really just the start of their journey as a resident, but it's that, really nuanced, but also like hyper important period of time where that impression from that resident is going to make or break their experience for the duration of their resident life cycle.
It sets the tone for the entire relationship. Kingsley just redid they have a study on resident satisfaction that they survey millions of residents nationally. And they just updated their stats, and 79% of residents who are satisfied at move-in remain satisfied through renewal. And if they're not happy at move-in, their chances of renewing are really low. And so if you think about like, where should you invest in your marketing mix? Like, do you want to just do customer acquisition, or should you focus on like churn prevention? Because the move-in experience is a really strong resident churn preventing activity you can do.
Absolutely. And like for those viewers that or listeners that are on the vendor side, like think about the amount of resources that we put into implementation. That's post signature. So this is prior to their move-in. We're dedicating support, implementation, individuals. The salesperson is still involved. Like there's really a lot of effort put into ensuring that not just like, hey, we sold them, but now their onboarding experience is great. Like we're carrying that over to the actual multifamily side. Like, hey, you submitted an application, maybe not even signed your lease yet, but now you have to be onboarded into our community. And like, frankly, for me, like as far as I'm concerned, that really hasn't been a huge focus on, the on-site side.
Yeah, as because I also work with you, I have a very good understanding of how the industry feels and is starting to interact with like you thinking of move-ins as like an onboarding experience in the same way you onboard software. And we've been seeing a lot more companies pop up lately that are doing this resident onboarding activity. What is it about Updater that is unique in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like really, 30 days in, right? What I felt is like, first of all, like there's a hyper focus on this. Like this is truly what we're aligned with is that move-in process. And that's where we're looking to invest and to iterate and continue to build upon what we've already created. Really what it comes down to as well is just the longevity we've had in this space has allowed us to build up a really, profound marketplace for those future residents who are moving in. So part of this is understanding, hey, in order for this resident to have a good experience, there has to be partnerships in place to align with, really what the PMCs are leveraging for insurance, cable and internet, and all that pets and all that stuff takes time. So when it comes to pet screening, which is, can be ubiquitous within multifamily, like that's an integration that we've had for quite some time and a relationship that is really valuable to us. When it comes to something like insurance, like being able to partner with really anyone in the space, but then having different sort of relationships with folks like Assurant, some of those other vendors out there and cable and internet, like when it comes to Comcast, like everyone needs internet. That's just something that, hey, that's at the top of the residents' priority list. We know it's not necessarily high on the PMC's priority list compared to utilities and those sorts of things.
Although, if you think about it, like you can only raise rent so much. You only have so many units to sell. And if you're thinking about additional revenue streams, a lot of these partnerships, like your Assurance, like your Comcast or whatever, your pet screening, there are revenue implications for selling more of those things to your residents.
Absolutely.
With commissions that you get from this partner.
There's a lot of opportunity on the ancillary revenue space, right? When it comes to the insurance partnerships, the cable and internet partnerships, and additional partnerships that people probably haven't even thought about yet, right? And so that's something where, I really love, based on my experience within multifamily, what's always been important to me is the term like agnostic. Like we want to be someone who can work with anyone, be the Switzerland of multifamily, right? And really ensure that the experience for our customer, which is the PMC, is, conforming to really what they need when it comes to their operations. So, that's something that we really want to, be able to work with everyone in that space to ensure they can collect that ancillary revenue, but also at the same time, like the residents can really take advantage of the different services that PMC might provide.
Absolutely. So in your first 30 days, getting to have conversations with current customers are partners of Updater and future ones, sitting in calls with potential customers. What has it been like? What has the reaction been when you're in these sales conversations with property management companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, really like Updater has made a shift. So for those who don't know, it really used to be more of a resident facing type of solution where, like for lack of a better term, like set it and forget it. Like the PMC is really not involved. There's not a lot of leasing team visibility, but the resident is able to do what they need. And so, in conversations with customers who aren't used to what UPO, which is our Updater Pro onboarding, that's really like incorporating the involvement of the leasing team into this process. Like one of the biggest things that we hear is the lack of visibility into where a potential future resident is at during that move-in process. So have we collected their utilities? Have they signed up for cable and internet? And a lot of those actions or items that are required inform on the intent of that future resident to actually move in, right? So what we know right now is supply is at an all-time high. Many major urban markets are seeing a decline in rent growth. What we know from the past is that many of these applicants are applying at multiple communities, right? That $200 admin fee is not necessarily something that no one is afraid of parting with these days. So really being able to understand, hey, are we getting the things we need? But also, is that potential renter actually showing intent to move in, which we know is hyper important right now, given negative trade outs, given how tough leasing is right now, and really just providing visibility into a process that historically has been either pen and paper, like on your move-in checklist, or in a million different Outlook emails at a property, leasing email 1, leasing email 2. Who knows what's actually been collected or what's being communicated to that resident.
And some of those required tasks are critical. I mean, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, it probably has, but a renter shows up and it's like, I'm ready for my keys. And you're like, well, you didn't transfer your utilities, so I can't give you your keys. So we're gonna have to sit here for an hour while you try to get in a hold of me.
You didn't sign up for renter's insurance, right? And now this moment that should be insanely exciting, like we're welcoming them. This should be the apex right now of this relationship, really becomes a letdown because this individual hasn't completed what we as operators are requiring of them. And really, not to the fault of the future resident, right? Like we didn't really give them a great way to go about, completing that process. So really thinking about kind of the UPO product or UP in general, just like a modern welcome letter, right? A dynamic one. You think about the ones that are being sent today, it's this PDF, and I moved like 3 years ago from Seattle to Atlanta. I know nothing about Atlanta. I'm a Northwest native, and I have to set up utilities, and I don't know what cable providers they have, and I'm going like back to this static piece of paper that has some link outs, doesn't have link outs, has some phone numbers, right? Just the archaic process that really, based on all the advancement in prop tech, like there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, there's no reason to be using PDFs anymore.
Yep, and that's what we're doing up.
Yeah, and when I was on the operator side as a marketer, I did not have a big portfolio. I only had 30, 40 properties, but the ability, I did not know what was happening at individual properties. I didn't have visibility into that process. And we have brands to maintain, and you want to give someone a similar experience at one property as another one in your portfolio. I was chatting with Jenna from Bozzuto not too long ago, and she was like, I want it to hurt to move out of a Bozzuto property. Yeah. I want it to be physically painful. Like you just can't imagine, like you're brand loyal because it feels different than a different property. And when you can have that a tool that can create consistency across your portfolio, you can get closer to that, where it's like, this feels like a Bozzuto property.
Absolutely. And I think for operators and marketers, right? Marketers, hey, we're at Social Media Summit, like we're mostly talking to marketers. It's really difficult to trust a prop tech company to carry on the standards of your brand, right? That's tough. It's like, hey, I don't want to say control freak, but hey, you want to control the narrative.
That's why they put those people in place, because they're good at that, and they do have,
You want to control the journey.
Absolutely.
And so something at Updater that's very important to us is really white labeling the product. So being able to brand really in any way that fits the company. So whether that's a property centric branding or corporate centric branding, we can really work with our customers to ensure that their expectations are being met, which from a move-in process, right? Hey, there's a lot of communication. There's a lot that's going on. We want everything to be as consistent as possible, which Updater can really help with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because ultimately their brand matters than our brand. Yep. And I mean, our emails have a 96% open rate, and it's because they're branded to the community and they feel like part of the move-in process.
That's something that really I can't understate as a wow for me coming to Updater is the world-class delivery team and the emphasis that we put on ensuring that residents are able to interact with this software, right? And really what that comes down to is, are they opening the emails? Are they claiming the and you're talking 90+% open rates, which is really world-class SaaS, whether it's prop tech or any other
Anyone.
vertical.
I sent a lot of emails as a marketer. It's insane.
Yes. So yeah, that was basically like a wow for me.
I was chatting with my friend Mike Brewer. We did a demo and he's like, can I customize when the reminders get sent out? I was like, why would you want to? We send out millions of them to all over the country. And they're actually on my marketing team, a user engagement team that are like scientists. They iterate like tiny little words, tiny little images, and it adjusts this open rate this much and it adjusts the claim rate this much. And just, they have it down to a science. They know exactly when to prompt people to get them back on track, to accomplish everything their community's required of them.
Yeah, and I mentioned like, hey, like controlling your brand and doing all these things. And one thing that I've found throughout my career is like, if you can back something up with data, then whether it's a marketer or someone on the operations side from your PMC, like, hey, they will listen, right? And so, we want to have consistent branding, but at the same time, we're sending millions of emails. Like, this is our core competency. We can really tell you, like, you know, what's best to do in order to get these items accomplished. So, and we've had a lot of trust from our partners when it comes to those conversations of, hey, let us like tweak this or tweak that. And of course, everything's A/B tested. Ensuring that it's getting
EFG tested.
Exactly, getting the result that we want. Yeah.
And I can speak to the way we go to market with this company is we spend a lot of time with our customers. Like Updater Pro onboarding was built by our customers. It was built by sitting with our customers and letting them say, this is what we need and this is how it works and this is what we want you to build. And between like putting our customers in the center of our story and being like not just saying fluffy words, but here's the data. It's worked really well for us when it comes to like establishing why move-in automation is important. And it's made a big difference. I mean, we work with a lot of great companies and they've really seen the value in it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to prop tech and just this industry in general, like everything has to constantly be changing and iterating to keep up with the demand of the market, different forces, what have you, right? And, I was recently on a demo with a potential customer. I think they might have actually signed like yesterday for a pilot. And they're like, the reason that we didn't like Updater historically is because we didn't have the visibility for the on-site teams. And, for me coming in relatively new, right, 30 plus days, like that's refreshing for me to hear is that, hey, everything that we're doing with this product like is based off of customer feedback, which, in my career, typically that's the best way to really like delight the customer is listen to them, synthesize that, and then put it back into the product. And really just do what we can to move everything forward.
Yeah. I used Updater when I was on the operator side. I was an Updater customer back in the day. I think it was like 2018. And it was an amenity. It was a fun little amenity that I turned on. We'd advertise it in our ads. Like, we have this great thing for you. And we'd set it and forget it. And now it's totally an operation tool. It is a tool to check and make sure your teams are on the same page. It's a tool to, if somebody's out, someone can pick right back up and see everything that's been accomplished. And then obviously, I mean, the most important thing is you're not going to have residents showing up on day one frustrated because they can't get their keys.
Well, I can't tell you, like my, core experience on site was new development. And that's just the most hectic, crazy kind of environment you could possibly be in. And countless times we had folks just kind of have to sit down in the office and go through, hey, we didn't get your insurance. Or maybe we did collect the insurance, even worse, but it was in a lease. And as the manager, I don't have visibility into that Outlook email. So I have to go there, grab that, right? It's just like unnecessarily like, preventing this resident from moving in, like even though we have all these things. So that visibility piece is a big thing that we heard and something that's been, worked into the platform and something that we're working on just continuing to push forward. And like, how can we make this, really functional tool? And I think one of the big pieces that we have that is kind of underutilized, or at least in my experience, like recently we're talking with customers and potential customers, is the visibility at a like centralized level, whether we're talking like a regional, right? If we're not doing a full on like centralized leasing model, but if you are doing that centralized leasing model, like one team member can have visibility into 12 properties, 20 properties, right? And really take on that move-in task. Maybe it's specialization, right? You're not fully centralizing, but maybe you have a resident experience director who works over a property or two or three or four. Like that's when they can really kind of live in Updater a little bit more than your typical leasing team who is checking it kind of once in the morning, once at night, do we have these things? Like, it's not really a dashboard that they have to live in. It's meant to be like quick and easy. Hey, you can check what you're doing. But for those folks that are specialized, hey, it's nice to have a dedicated tool to really focus on what your role is based on.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking into the future without getting our product team mad at us, what do you think the future of updaters? How are we innovating this year?
Yeah, I think the future is kind of endless, right? So there's a lot. Obviously, first and foremost, like continuing to expand our partnership space, whether that's more on the transactional type of side from operations like insurance or cable. Like those are things that we're always going to keep working on. Maybe getting into things like, hey, could you see a community map as a future resident and understand where your property is? Or maybe then even getting more granular of like, oh, that virtual floor plan that I looked at when I leased, I want to look at it again before I move into the apartment because I want to see where this furniture would fit or that furniture would fit. Really expanding kind of that marketplace or just like our vendor partnerships space. Also, there's opportunities we'll explore when it comes to kind of renewals, right? Hey, we get someone at move in, can we get them at move out or get them right before they make that move out decision? And we've dabbled in move outs in the past, and maybe looking at kind of getting back into that and seeing where we can go from there. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for talking with me, Kalvin, and I'll see you on Monday, guys, or I'll see you around.